What's up, guys? In this video I want to talk about how to take your automotive Neopixel LED lighting to the next level with BlueGhozt and BlueGhozt Light. I'm going to focus on showing you how to use the Arrangement tab in the BlueGhozt app to make your lighting animations flow seamlessly and to give your builds a truly professional appearance. One of our core driving philosophies at Ghozt Lighting is to produce software that does the hard work so that your wiring can be simple while delivering a professional quality. The Arrangement tab truly embodies that principle and really sets the BlueGhozt apart from other Neopixel controllers. What you see here on the floor is just an example of what the BlueGhozt can do. It can take almost any arrangement of Neopixel LEDs and make them all flow seamlessly together. In a moment, I'll walk you through the entire setup for this example, and you'll learn what every button and widget on the Arrangement tab is used for. Later on in the video, I'll show a second example for setting up vehicle underglow lighting. The second example should give you some practical ideas that you can take and apply to your own lighting creations. So, whether you run a professional lighting shop who's looking to take BlueGhozt as a core part of your business, or a do-it-yourselfer, you should learn some useful tips and tricks from watching this video. If you like this video, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. With that said, let's get right into it. Alright, so I've just wiped out all of the configuration that I had done, and we're going to go through and redo it, and I'll explain everything as I go along. But the first thing you can see, obviously, is that this doesn't look nearly as professional as it did a moment ago. You know, the flow is just going all over the place, and it just doesn't look. It doesn't look like it's ready for a car show, and that's what we want. So that's what we're going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do, the best way to do this is to have the turn signal on, and you'll see why as we go. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to turn off show mode here, and I'm going to go activate a turn signal. If you're doing this in your shop, you probably don't have something that generates a consistent turn signal. You're going to want that, so you may just do this after you put it on a car, or you may, the second backup is the Starfall show mode is pretty good. It's not quite as good as having the turn signals on, and I'll show you in a second why, but that's the second option, is you do it with Starfall on. So let me go activate the turn signals. Alright, so now I've got the turn signals on, and obviously you can see that we're only covering the first like 20 LEDs right now. I've got them set in the wave mode. You can see that right here. That's probably the best one. Maybe sequence is pretty good, or bounce, but I think the wave one is the best for doing this. The way I have it set up, I have both turn signal inputs going to my board, and you can see that up here at the top. You see the three symbols at the top of the app here that are highlighted are the two turn signals and the parking light. Those indicate which signals the module's picking up. So right now the brake is not activated, so that one's not highlighted. I get a lot of questions where people hook their stuff up and they say, I don't see turn signals. The first thing to check is those. And if you see one or both of those highlighted, well, if you see one of them highlighted and you're not seeing turn signals, it's probably because you're plugged into the wrong side. So, that's something to check. But that's what those are for, and they're really useful to help debug when you're not seeing your signals. So let's go back over to the Arrangement tab. That's this tab here that has the little building blocks. And so as you can see, it's completely empty right now. So we're going to add a device by pressing this little plus button here. You can see that it turned on all the parking lights there on the subsequent strip. So right now it's animating the first strip. And so what we want to do is we're going to treat that first section of the strip there as a halo. So I'm going to set this in halo mode. And you can see it's going two directions at the same time now. And we're just going to bump up the size until it fills up that whole circle section there. Alright, so right there. And then we can change the direction here. That's what this angle slider does. So I slide it a little bit at a time and you'll see it goes around a different direction. And right there, in this case, right at 50% is perfect. We've got these little arrows here that help you nudge it. If you're trying to get it just right, you can nudge it by a single increment at a time. And then, so let's go ahead and move right along to the second halo. So we hit the plus button again. You get your second halo pop up here. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bump up the size until we get the whole thing filled out. Now it helps if you count how many LEDs are in your halo, but obviously you saw me just do it. I didn't need to count. So now you see, let's turn the angle like we did on the other one. We'll turn to 50%. So now you see them kind of firing at different times, right? Now that could look good if I turn this one back to 0. Now if you're doing, like, a lot of you are just going to have 2 halos, right? I mean, that'll be a really common use for BlueGhost, and this is what you want, right? And the angles let you, you know, that little angle slider lets you position the halos any way you want on the car so that the wire coming out of the back of the halo tucks right in and nobody can see it. And that way you can run your wires so that the wiring is easy, but then have it flowing whatever direction you want to flow on the car. And you know, that goes back to what I said earlier about our philosophy, is let the software do the hard work. I'm going to do something a little different here. You saw in the earlier part of the video, I'm actually going to have them fire simultaneously and go in opposite directions. And so the way they're arranged on the floor there, we put them both at 50%, and then that's where this offset slider comes in, right? So I had it set at 25. That was the default. The app sort of guessed, and that was what gave me this nice flow, right? So what the offset does is tells it where the thing starts in the series, right? And so the first halo has 49 LEDs in it, and so when you divide it in 2, because it's going around both sides at the same time, you get 25, which means it fires right at the end of the first one, and that's what gives you this nice flow. Now, if I want them to fire at the same time, I want to have them both at 0, right? So they both have the offset 0, and you see now they're both firing simultaneously. And if I put them back to both 50%, then they go in opposite directions, right? So now let's move along to the next piece of strip there on the floor. So we'll add another device here. And now you see that that next strip firing. Now that one's a little too much, so we're going to back it off here. Right about there. All right. And once again, it's firing later than the other 2. So I'm going to turn that offset back down to 0 with the other ones. So they all start right at the same time, nice and consistent. Now the third section. The third section is a matrix. So matrices, normally a matrix is like a panel. They're not as common to see on cars, but they do exist. So we'll set this one to matrix. And so the easiest way is like just like we have on the floor for a matrix, is they're wired in a zigzag pattern like that. With the matrices, it's definitely easiest to count the number of LEDs that you have. So you want to count the number of rows and the number of columns. In this case, I think it was 23 rows. Maybe it's 22. Yeah, that looks about right. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. Maybe it was 23. All right, that looks pretty good. It's just about right. If you have a real matrix, it'll be exactly a certain number. But in this case, because I just tossed the strip on the floor, it's not quite exact, but that got it pretty close. And so once again, you see the timing of that one is a bit off. So we're going to turn down the offset until it looks right. In this case, that's going to be right around 24. Right, because we want to fire right at the end of that other strip, which had a size 24, you can see right here. Then we'll do that next strip. So I'll just hit add again, and you can see more LEDs start blinking. I'm going to turn that down. So 19. And then we're going to do the last strip separately, and that's because I want it to flow in the opposite direction. But first, let's adjust this offset here. And it should be right at the end of the matrix. So the matrix had an offset 24, and it had 23 rows. So we're going to add those two numbers together, so you get 47. And so that's what you want to use for the offset for this strip. And that'll make it fire right at the end of that matrix. And then we will add in the last strip. So that's that last section. And I happen to know that that one is 60, and the reason is because the BlueGhozt supports 60 LEDs per channel, and so I'm only using one channel. I could wire up twice as many or the same number to the other channel and have twice as many overall. But in this case, I have two strips. They're 300 each, but because it only controls 360 per channel, you only get the first 60 from that second strip, and the rest are sort of off the camera there. Now we're going to adjust the offset again. The angle slider has two settings. It's either all the way one direction or all the way the other. And so you see I just flipped it there, and now it's traveling the opposite direction. And so we're just going to adjust the offset till it looks right in line with the other LEDs that are on the floor. And so I think that seems to be around 22 or so. So let me talk about another feature now that we've skipped over entirely in this section. And that is that we can have any section of the strip respond to any combination of signaling functions. And so the four signaling functions are left turn, right turn, park, and brake. And so you probably noticed with each device in this list, there's these four little icons here. And what those do is they tell it which signals to respond to. So the default settings are for the left side, the left channel, is the left turn signal, and then the park light and the brake light. And then likewise for the right side, it's the right turn signal, obviously, and the park and brake. But if you want to do something different, you can do any other combination that you want. So if you want, say, some section of your indicators to not do turn signals and to just do parking lights, no problem. So let's take, for example, that last strip on the end there, and let's just say we don't want it to do turn signal. So that one's always going to show the parking light, right? So when you toggle your parking light on, all the other channels are going to flash turn signals, and that one's going to do parking light. And then if you want, you can, activate the brake, and then if you want to get really creative, you can have some sections do left turn signal and some sections do right turn signal. I'll show you in a second. I'm gonna do a different arrangement here that's a little more practical, and you'll see how that would be really useful for making your wiring simple. Like I said, the whole point of all this is to make the wiring simple, to make your hardware simple, make the install simple, and let the software do the hard work. Alright, now here's part 2 of this video. I promised I would show a setup that's a little more practical than the last setup. And so in this case, I'm going to show how to do underglow. And so what I've done here is I took my two 5-meter strips. So I hooked up one to the left channel and one to the right channel. And then I've put a little toy car there in the middle just as a visual aid. So you can see where the front of the strips are, where the front of the car is, and everything. And so you can imagine the way you'd wire this on a car is you'd put the Ghozt maybe near the battery, or maybe even in the trunk, actually. But in this case, I'm showing it maybe where the battery might be, or behind a headlight, if you use your imagination a little bit. And then rather than having a bunch of different sections of strips with wires going in between, I have once again let the software do the hard work and let the wiring be simple. So I just took my two strips. I started at one corner of the car. I wrapped one strip. There's the strip on the bottom here goes down and then up to the other corner, and then the right strip goes down the driver's side and around the back of the car. Now, for a real car, you'd probably use all 5 meters. In this case, to make it fit on the screen, I've sort of run the excess off the camera there. Yeah, so and as you see, the animation starts in the middle of the front strip, and then it goes around the sides and all the way, and then it ends in the middle of the back. And so that's where these settings come in. And then you'll also show the turn signals. Um, uh, and another thing this time I'm going to do differently is I'll show you how to set this up when you're using a show mode rather than a turn signal. You know, like I mentioned earlier, it's easier to do it with turn signal because you can turn sections off, and it helps you find where the edge is. But in this case, I'll show you how I see what's going on with just a show mode when you don't have an actual turn signal generator. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe out all these settings like I did before and walk you through how to do all of this setup. Okay, so like I said, I wiped out all the arrangement settings, and we're starting from scratch. So I'm going to start on the left channel, which in this case is the one that starts in the front of the car and goes around the passenger side. So I'm going to hit plus. Now on this bottom, or on this front part of the car, there's I counted, there's 40 LEDs. So I'm going to split that into 2 strips, and so there'll be 20 each. So I've added the first strip now. It doesn't look different actually, but I'm going to turn that strip the other way, so now it's going the opposite direction. So if I hadn't counted, I can, you know, now that I've flipped the direction there, I can clearly see where the end of that strip is. So you can adjust it visually if you want. You know, I can bump it up. Obviously it's too many now, so I can drop it back down. So obviously I can see the 20 is the right number. So I will go ahead and add the next section. Turn that to 20. Now this one, the offset defaulted to 20 because it thought that I wanted it to start at the end of that strip. Obviously I don't. I want it to start at 0 because it's at the front of the car. It's at the origin. So I'm going to set the offset to 20. And so that first section is going to have a left turn signal, right? So the left signal's default, so I leave that on. It's in the front, so I don't want it to show brake lights, so I'm going to turn that off. And so that's the right signal setting for that. The next one is actually going to respond to a right turn signal, right? So I turn off the left, turn on the right, and then once again turn off the brake light. Okay, so then let me go ahead and add that section that goes down the right side, and that section is 72. Once again, if I hadn't counted, I can flip the direction. So now you can see over here, it's clearly where the end is, and I can just sit here and bump the size up until it gets to the end of the strip, which, like I said, is right there at 72. So I can flip the direction back because I want to go in that way. And then this one again is on the right side of the car, so I want to do right turn signal. And actually, I'll show you in a minute, but let's say I just want the back part of that to do brake lights, right? I can turn, let's change it down to 40. So I'll have the first 40 not do brake lights, and then the back 40 will. So I'll actually make it 2 strips. Oh, and then don't forget the offset. So like you can see right here, it's disjointed, and that's because the default offset is not the correct offset. And so the way you know the offset is you start here. That strip started at a 0 origin, and then remember there were 20 LEDs here, and so this strip we want to start at 20. And so as I set this to 20, now it looks like one strip all together. Then I'll go ahead and add the last strip again. So now we're back on this section of the car, which is going to do the brake lights, right? So to make that continuous, This section here started at offset 20. It's 40 long, so the 20 plus the 40 to here will give me an offset for the next strip at 60. So I'm going to set that down to 60. Once again, it looks nice and cohesive. And remember, that section had 32 because the whole length of here was 72. And we made the first part of it 20 and the last part is 32. So that one is going to do right turn signal, parking light, and brake light. Okay. Now let's flip over to the right side. So with the right side, we're starting here at the corner of the car and going around. So we'll add our first strip. And just like the other one, we'll make the front part of that 40. And you see it's it's disjointed here again because the offset's not right. So remember, this strip was 20 long and it started at offset 0. So this one will set the offset to 20. So again, it's all fluid, all goes together. And then we're going to turn off the brake light. Okay. And then we'll add the next strip. Once again, that one's 30 long. And then we'll adjust the offset. So this started at 20 plus 40 LEDs to get to here. So that means the offset needs to be 60. Oops. Okay. So now it's all fluid. And then we have to do this last section in the back. Okay. Oh, I forgot. These both have left turn signal, not right. So we'll fix that. Okay. So we'll add the back section. The back section once again, that's going to have, there's going to be 20 LEDs here that are going to do left signal and then 20 LEDs that are going to do right. So we'll add a section of 20. Okay. And then we see right here the offset is not right, so we will fix that. So we started at 20 plus 72. So this one will be at 92. Okay, perfect. And then the last section here. Oh yeah, let's set the signals right. So that one's left signal, not right signal, and it has brake light. So last section here is that one. So that one is, right now it's going the wrong direction, right? So we're going to flip the angle here. Oops. We're going to flip the angle here. Okay. Now, once again, the offset's not right, so we're going to set that one. I'm sorry, it actually is right. It's at 92. Okay. Oh, the length isn't right. It should be 20. So we'll set it to size 20. 92 offset, and flip the direction, right? Perfect. And that one is doing right turn signal because it's on the right side of the car. And again, parking and brake light. All right, so that's how I got this set up. Let me pause for a minute and I will show you the different turn signal functions. And we'll see how that looks. All right, to start off with the signaling, I'm going to show the hazards first. Okay. So I've got both the turn signals set up to my turn signal generator. And you see in the app right here, it's picking up both turn signals and the parking light. So you see Once again, the left turn signal and the right, they're both firing simultaneously. They're both going around both sides of the car. And it looks exactly as you'd want it to. Now, obviously, you could flip directions if you wanted it to go differently, or we could try a different animation. Actually, let's try bubble. All right, that's kind of cool for your underglow setup. Obviously, you can go with a simpler. You can go with basic if you want that. Or you can go with the simple sequence. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. If you ask me, that's pretty awesome underglow. Yeah, let me go ahead and show you individual turn signals. So there's just your right turn signal. There's just the left one. So here's what the brake light looks with that turn signal on. So you see it just flashing on the one side of the car, and only in the back where we enable the brake light. Let's see what the brake light looks like with no turn signals on. Alright, so that's pretty sweet. Only in the back of the car, you still have your parking lights in the front of the car. Just for kicks, while I got everything set up here, I'll show off some of the parking on-off animations. So this first one that I have is one of the new ones. It's called Rainbow Road. So let's actually turn up the size on that. So that's pretty cool when your car starts. Alright, the next one, let's see. Scanner sweep is a cool one. So that is scanner sweep. So a couple of these move around while the car's running. So this one's called oscillate. So it's going to kind of have a dim section that moves back and forth there all the time. And you can adjust the speed of that to your liking. And also the amount of, well, in this case it's the size of that dark section. So now it's really small, now it's really big, and I can have it move slowly or quickly. So that also is one of the new ones in the recent update. Materialize was a popular one. So this one's going to like flicker with different colors. Let me slow it down a bit. So if you're a Star Trek fan, this one kind of reminds me of the teleporter, when they teleport somebody. In this case, the intensity has to do with how many LEDs are going to flicker there. So that one's one of my favorite. And then of course there's the basic, is just going to fade on. Fade in and fade out. That's the most subtle one. And the last one is pulsate. This is the other one that's always animating. So I'm going to turn up the intensity here to have it be more pronounced. And the speed so you can see it more. So this one you can kind of see like the little walking pattern going on there. Yeah, so you can turn down the intensity and have it be more subtle if you want, or you can turn it all the way up so make sure everybody notices. So that's a pretty cool one to have, especially for an underglow. So I think that's about it for this video. Hope you got something out of it. We saw two setups that one of them is pretty crazy, one of them is more practical, this one, or more simple anyway, but also certainly will turn some heads on any car. You can of course mix and match, on a setup like this you could throw in some wheel lights, you might imagine, I mean, I didn't show that there was a break here for where the wheels are, but certainly in a real setup you would probably have a gap in between you know, the front section and the side. You can use the offset there, you know, creatively if you want to make it look the way you want it to. But yeah, this should hopefully help you understand all the tools that you have to make your LEDs really turn heads. So hope you enjoyed it. Peace out.